Speaker.
I call the Honourable Shane Jones.
Tēnā koe te kaihautu o te whare. Taku mihi ki a koe, I runga I ngā kupu a tāhua I puta I a Honourable Simon Power I tēnei rangi mōu. Nā reira, ngā mihi ki a koe me tō hāpai I tō tātou reo Māori. Greetings, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to endorse some of what Honourable Simon Power had to say about yourself. And I too look forward to seeing that speech that was delivered in 1996, during the time where the actual housing estate owned by the Crown was destroyed by the government of that time. However, sir, I won't hold you responsible for what you may or may not have done during that period of time as a highly effective opposition MP, no doubt, in 1996. I want to say that we do support this bill going to the Select Committee. It is a relatively insubstantial piece of legislation, but sir, what it endeavours to do is to pick up the report by the Housing Shareholders Advisory Group. Sir, and that report pointed out that about $2 billion at this point in our time is spent by the state in the pursuit of social housing, and that's expected to rise, sir, within another 6 or 7 years, close to $4 billion. Now, sir, what we also know as a consequence of that report is that over 20,000 houses or units of residence, they may not be houses, are required to deal with the geometric pressures of growth in Tāmaki Makaurau in Auckland. And unfortunately, many of the people needing that level of assistance come from our tangata whenua, Māori community, and they will not all receive this handsome $2 million gift that was given to a narrow caste of favoured individuals from one hapu who presumably are aspiring candidates for the Māori Party. But more on that at another stage. No, sir, the broad membership of the Māori community and the PI community do require quality access to social housing. And it's disappointing that this bill does not deal with the challenges that the housing shareholder body put before Minister Heatley. Now, so we may not necessarily agree that private capital should be involved in the provision of social housing, but put the proposal on the table. It's a legitimate and it's a positive public policy point to debate. Don't hide behind stories about the last 4 or 5 years, because that man over there is the minister now. In case he hadn't noticed, we are no longer in control of the benches of Treasury. We will do a far better job after November the 26th. But unfortunately, sir, for the tenants and the people struggling in Strugglers Gully, desiring better housing outcomes, are stuck with this crowd here. But if you want to use private capital and come up with a model of a public-private partnership or whatever model you have in mind, put it on the table so it can be a point of grand debate. There is no innovative solution being brought forward by the Minister of Housing. And if you are going to release Crown land, if you are going to make more of the current housing stock available to third parties, to third sector providers, then crystallise a proposal, put it before the public, bring it to the House, then we can debate something of merit and substance. No one seriously, sir, is incredibly hot and bothered about where the departmental advisory capacity rests. Does it rest in Housing New Zealand? Does it rest in the Department of Building? What we're really, sir, bothered by is over 20,000 units of residence are needed every year to deal with internal migration and migration from overseas into our largest city, a city that comprises 1/3 of the country's GDP, 1/3 of the country's population, and has, sir, housing conditions approaching a third world country. Now, it's sad that too many members on that side of the House, sir, are prepared to hide these issues under ideology. The reality is that we will have ongoing social problems amongst our youth, predominantly brown in character. We will see them going in the wrong direction, eventually too many of them into incarceration. Put the money into housing now, and if you need to use private money as well, bring the proposal forward. Don't be fearful to pursue what you might think are your best instincts. If you find that what you learn in Australia ought to be brought forward, have we harassed this minister that much he's actually lost the ability even to bring a rather harmless proposal forward? No. Sir, there are a lack of viable alternatives to state housing at the moment. We actually think that there's a great deal of worth in enabling the third sector to generate solutions. But sir, in order to that happen, the Crown has got to stand behind them. The Crown has got to stand beside them so that they can amass the capital and deliver those services. And it may come to pass, sir, that taking a swathe of the houses currently owned by the Crown and trusting them to entities such as the Salvation Army, Māori housing providers, women's refuge housing providers and other options are worthy of us debating, possibly embracing or dismissing. Because that's the stuff, sir, that we want to see in this policy and political debate. Not these phantoms and shadows, whether or not the people from Housing New Zealand, as they constantly wander around the country telling needy families that they have no options, or the Department of Building and Katrina Bark and others offering perhaps a better job. Now, sir, what can be done to actually innovate the delivery of housing services? What exactly is the Minister offering to do? Unfortunately, all that we're being told that's going to happen is that more bureaucrats will sit their butts in chairs in another part of the government. But where is the evidence that this is a minister who's prepared to bring forward alternatives to deal with the situations of poor equity, deal with the situation, sir, that there's an absence of innovation, and there are houses located in the wrong location. There are people who are unwilling to move out into the provinces where perhaps, for example, Dunedin, there are surplus houses. So, sir, we actually want to see an innovative, minister-led solution for Auckland. Now, sir, they set up the super city that they wanted. They've actually got the structure. They've got the unified group of representatives. They didn't get the mayor that they wanted. They didn't get a majority of the councillors that might have ideologically suited them, but they've got the structure, they've got the institution. Sir, it is crying out for assistance and leadership from this minister. Now, I won't be as unkind as an earlier colleague and describe him as something of a Boy Scout. I actually think, sir, that he's genuinely interested in improving the provision of houses. I do believe that about him. No, I do. No, I do. So the only thing that he's failed on is that, number one, he's failed to come up with how he can afford it. He's failed to come up with where they would be. He's failed to come up with how he would deliver it in an innovative fashion with the support of the third sector or with the support of the private sector. And as a consequence of that, sir, he's lost the confidence of the finance minister. And he's lost the confidence of the actual force that runs the government when John Key's riding around in the limousine, Stephen Joyce. No, sir, he's lost the confidence of those particular senior members. So poor people have to actually bumble along while this minister is actually hemmed in. Use your creative energies. Sir, don't serve us up these trite, narrow, irrelevant little changes, etc., although it's probably a part of providing a smoother basis, a primrose road for the Housing Corporation to actually be sold. But, sir, we look forward to a more substantial contribution from this minister, although we fear that our desires are inversely related to his capacity. Kia ora tātou.
Figure.